If y'all see Gene, I'm telling y'all, man, somebody better punch him in the face. Somebody better do something to him, man. He out here doing this, that, and we be like, all right.
This dude wanted me dead way before I came to YouTube.
Picture this. A man who spent years blowing the lid off of one of hip-hop's most dangerous secrets is now the one running for his life. Gene Deal isn't your typical whistleblower. He's a former bodyguard who stood in the shadows while empires were built on blood and silence. And now, after decades of keeping quiet, he's speaking out. The problem? Speaking out might just get him eliminated. The warning came from someone who knows exactly how this playbook works. Roger Bonds, Diddy's former head of security, dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community. He revealed that Sean Combs had once directly ordered him to physically attack Gene Deal. Not intimidate, not threaten, attack. The chilling detail? This wasn't about roughing him up. Diddy allegedly wanted Gene in the dirt, which in street language means permanently silenced.
He wanted me in the dirt and was trying to rock me to sleep.
But here's what makes this absolutely terrifying. Roger Bonds wasn't speculating or spreading rumors. He was confessing to orders he'd personally received but refused to fully execute. When a trusted insider who once protected the hip-hop mogul goes public with warnings like this, it's not clout-chasing gossip. It's a life-or-death situation. Gene's response was raw and emotional.
He wanted me dead way before I came to YouTube.
The fear in his voice wasn't manufactured for internet drama. It was the genuine terror of a man who suddenly realized that every shadow could be hiding something sent to finish what Diddy allegedly started years ago. And the most disturbing part? This pattern of violent retaliation isn't new. It's been Diddy's alleged method of controlling narratives for decades. The only difference now is that federal investigators are listening, former associates are speaking up, and the walls of silence that protected one of music's biggest moguls are finally crumbling. But crumbling walls make dangerous people even more desperate. To understand why Gene Deal's life is in genuine danger, you need to understand exactly who he is and what he knows. This isn't some outsider trying to cash in on celebrity drama. Gene Deal was right there, inside the machine, witnessing history, and keeping secrets that could destroy empires. Gene wasn't just any bodyguard. He was bad boy security during that golden era of the 1990s, when Sean Combs was building his empire on the backs of legendary artists like the Notorious B.I.G., Maze, and countless others who defined an entire generation of hip-hop. Gene stood in the shadows at sold-out concerts, outside VIP rooms, and in hotel hallways where deals were made and secrets were buried. But Gene saw more than just business meetings. He witnessed the psychological warfare, the manipulation tactics, and the systematic control that Diddy allegedly used to maintain power. When you're protecting someone 24/7, you see everything, the public persona and the private monster. And according to Gene, there was a lot to see.
Well, I worked for you. You wasn't doing no dirty shit. That's why my days was with you when you had your kids. Because you knew you couldn't do that dirty shit around me.
Enter Roger Bonds, Diddy's head of security from 2003 to 2012. For nearly a decade, Roger was the man trusted to handle situations most of us can't even imagine. He protected Diddy in clubs, at award shows, and behind the scenes where the real power plays happened. Roger wasn't just muscle, he was part of the inner circle, witnessing the intimidation tactics and power moves that kept Diddy's empire intact. Roger eventually reached his breaking point and walked away. But walking away from Diddy's world isn't like quitting a regular job. It means carrying secrets that could end careers, destroy reputations, and potentially cost lives. Roger's recent revelations aren't revenge, they're warnings from someone who knows exactly how dangerous the situation has become.
So I used my sickness as one of the reasons, like, yo, you know I can't be traveling with you, and you know I can't be doing this, that, and the other. The doctor said I need to be in this.
The crucial difference between these two whistleblowers is their approach. Roger tends to be measured, reflective, almost careful in how he delivers his truth. Gene, on the other hand, is raw, unfiltered, and fiery. He speaks with the kind of emotion that feels less like a prepared statement and more like someone finally releasing years of pent-up truth. The rawness has made his interview go viral, but it also painted a massive target on his back. Because when you're not just telling the story, but telling it with passion, anger, and zero filter, you become harder to ignore. And for someone like Diddy, who has built an empire on control, someone like Gene Deal isn't just inconvenient, he's existentially dangerous. And here's where Gene Deal's existential danger becomes terrifyingly real. Because someone this dangerous doesn't just disappear into retirement, they weaponize their power against anyone who threatens their carefully constructed narrative. Roger Bonds didn't just confirm Gene's fears, he exposed the violence that Diddy allegedly used to maintain control. The former head of security revealed in the late 2000s, Diddy had directly ordered him and his crew to punch Gene Deal and Mark Curry in the face for daring to criticize him publicly. This wasn't corporate pushback, this was street-level retaliation designed to send a message that crossing Sean Combs came with physical consequences.
Security team. He didn't tell the NYPD officers. He didn't tell the Department of Correction officers. He didn't tell none of the parole officers or anybody he had working for him that was officers. He told street dudes who had did dirt in the street.
But Roger's revelation gets even more chilling. He admitted that he didn't fully carry out these orders, which means Diddy was comfortable enough with the violence that he expected his security team to become enforcers. This is textbook organized crime methodology, using intimidation and physical threats to maintain omerta, the code of silence that protects criminal enterprises.
We bumped into him at the bank. It was a couple of times we bumped into him in the street. We ain't had no real beef with him, but we would act like it when we was around Puff because that's what he want to hear.
Gene has always suspected this pattern. He recalls the August 14, 1999 high-speed chase when 5 firearms were pointed at his head. At the time, he wondered if Diddy had orchestrated the attack. Now, with Roger's confession, those suspicions seem devastatingly accurate. Gene realizes that those 4 guys, 5 firearms to my head, might have been sent by the same person he was protecting at the time. The paranoia is justified because the pattern hasn't stopped. Gene believes that a recent incident outside a courthouse, where a YouTuber relentlessly provoked him until he knocked the man out, was orchestrated to destabilize him while he's already under pressure. Whether true or not, the paranoia makes sense when you're being warned that a billionaire has goons watching your every move.
If you've seen all of that and was at puppy parties,
Don't play with me, bro.
And you the same size as Uncle Phil, and you the same size as Professor Ogilvy, and you the same size as Lucien Griez, Clive Davis.
How you doing? Okay.
This is mob-style intimidation, disguised as music industry business. Suge Knight pioneered these tactics in the 1990s, but Diddy allegedly refined them into an art form, using violence and fear not just to control artists, but to silence anyone who witnessed his alleged crimes. The difference now is that federal investigators are finally listening to victims instead of dismissing them as disgruntled employees. And what makes Gene Deal so dangerous to Diddy? He's not just telling stories, he's providing testimony that could help federal prosecutors connect decades of alleged violence into a racketeering case. Every interview Gene gives potentially adds another piece to the federal puzzle, which means every day he stays alive and keeps talking is another day Diddy's empire crumbles a little more. But while Gene dodges shadows and fears retaliation, the federal government has been quietly building the most devastating case in hip-hop history. This isn't just another celebrity scandal. This is a full-scale federal investigation that threatens to expose decades of alleged criminal activity hidden behind platinum records and Grammy Awards. The March 25, 2024 raids on Diddy's properties weren't fishing expeditions. They were surgical strikes executed by Homeland Security agents who had been building this case for months. What they found defied comprehension. Over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, 3 rifles with defaced serial numbers, massive quantities of SULDs, and thousands of hours of recorded footage documenting what prosecutors describe as systematic SUL exploitation.
There's quite a few tapes that might be out there, what they're hearing, and I don't want to see the tapes.
These weren't the possessions of a music mogul. These were the tools of a criminal enterprise. The federal charges reflect this reality. Racketeering conspiracy, ST by force, and transportation for P under the Mann Act. These are RICO charges, the same laws used to dismantle organized crime families. The maximum penalty? Life in prison. Cassie Ventura's explosive testimony opened the floodgates for federal investigators. Her detailed accounts of forced participation in defueled encounters with male escorts, physical mistreatment, and years of psychological control gave prosecutors the roadmap they needed to understand the scope of the alleged crimes. But Cassie was just the beginning. Over 100 additional lawsuits have been filed, with attorney Tony Busby representing victims who described decades of mistreatment. 25 of these plaintiffs were minors during the alleged incidents, transforming this from an ST case into something far more sinister. Busby has promised to name names that will shock the public, not just participants, but complicit bystanders who watched and did nothing. The federal timeline is devastating. Investigators have documented alleged criminal activity spanning from 2004 to 2024. 20 years of exploitation disguised as music industry networking. Federal prosecutors have identified over 40 organized freak-off encounters in just the last 3 years alone, suggesting the true scope may be far larger. This isn't just about Diddy anymore. The federal investigation is examining everyone who enabled, participated in, and covered up the alleged crimes. Gene Deal's eyewitness testimony isn't just YouTube content. It's potential evidence in a federal racketeering case that could send dozens of powerful people to prison for decades. And that's why speaking out has become a matter of life and death. And that's when the most chilling evidence of Gene's danger emerged from an unexpected source: the federal government itself. Because while Diddy sits in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, he hasn't stopped trying to control the narrative and silence witnesses who could destroy him.
Hell, Carl, I don't know how you ain't got that, Vlad. It's crazy. Yeah. You got to come back to the 100-sided clubhouse.
Okay.
Federal prosecutors revealed in November 2024 that Diddy has been violating prison rules by making unauthorized calls to potential witnesses in his upcoming trial. But this wasn't just casual conversation, prosecutors described relentless efforts to corruptly influence witness testimony, using other inmates' telephone accounts and three-way calls to reach people not on his approved contact list.
Alleging that he's using other inmates' phones to try to get in the outside and contact people. What would you say to him right now, knowing he's in the hot seat big time? Stop! Stop!
Gene believes he was among the targets of these prison intimidation campaigns. Sources close to the situation suggest that Diddy has been using intermediaries to reach out to former associates, offering financial incentives for silence and making veiled threats against those who continue speaking out. The fact that federal investigators discovered evidence of witness tampering validates Gene's fears about ongoing retaliation. The seized materials from Diddy's jail cell included a notebook with detailed strategies for managing witnesses and controlling media narratives. Federal prosecutors argued that this evidence showed serious risks of danger and obstruction. That justified keeping Diddy locked up without bail. Judge Arun Subramanian agreed, denying Diddy's $50 million bail package specifically because of concerns about witness tampering. Gene has publicly stated that he's received messages through intermediaries suggesting he reconsider his public statements about Diddy's alleged crimes.
You understand? He sent somebody through somebody else to try to get in contact with me, telling me enough is enough. Oh, okay.
While Gene hasn't revealed specific details to protect ongoing investigations, he's made it quite clear that the pressure to stay quiet has intensified since Diddy's arrest. They think I'm going to stop talking because he's locked up, Gene said in a recent interview, but locked up don't mean powerless.
Get witnesses. Remember when they released that first thing of Cassie and I said that Diddy was trying to contact people for character witnesses, people for who he had problems with before, whatever like that, and trying to talk to them in the whole...
Federal investigators documented that Diddy orchestrated social media campaigns from prison, including paying a witness to post statements contradicting allegations against him. This approach to witness manipulation demonstrates that Diddy's criminal enterprise continues operating even from behind bars. The most disturbing aspect of how Diddy's family members have allegedly become unwitting participants in the witness intimidation scheme. Prosecutors revealed that recorded calls show Diddy instructing his family to contact potential witnesses, turning his children into tools for obstructing justice. For Gene, this evidence confirms his worst fears. Diddy's reach extends far beyond prison walls, and speaking out remains genuinely dangerous regardless of where the mogul is physically located. The federal investigation has documented the very intimidation tactics that Gene has been warning about for years. But July 2, 2025 delivered a devastating blow to federal prosecutors and potentially a death warrant for Gene Deal. After 3 days of intense deliberation, the Manhattan jury delivered a stunning verdict that shocked the legal community. Sean Combs was acquitted of the most serious charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, and ST. He was convicted on only 2 counts of transportation for P under the Mann Act, carrying a maximum sentence of just 20 years. A slap on the wrist for someone prosecutors claimed was running a decades-long criminal enterprise.
Guilty.
He was found not guilty of hearing, the most serious charge. He was also found not guilty on 2 counts of trafficking. But he was found guilty on 2 lesser charges.
He was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in. Each carries a maximum of 10 years behind bars.
The courtroom erupted in celebration as Diddy dropped to his knees in prayer, thanking his family while his legal team embraced in victory. Defense attorney Mark Agnafilo called it a great victory for both Combs and the jury system. But federal prosecutors were reportedly furious with what they privately called a catastrophic failure of justice. Within hours of the verdict, sources within the Justice Department revealed that prosecutors were already preparing a second federal case, this time focusing on the RICO charges involving multiple victims across 2 decades of alleged crimes. The new investigation would target Diddy's entire criminal enterprise, including enablers, co-conspirators, and anyone who helped facilitate the alleged mistreatment. Whispers from within the prosecutor's office indicate that Gene Deal will be their star witness in the upcoming case. The insider who can connect 20 years of alleged violence, intimidation, and criminal activity into a cohesive RICO conspiracy. Gene's testimony could potentially expose dozens of high-profile accomplices and transform isolated incidents into evidence of organized crime. The moment word reached to Diddy's legal team about Gene's potential testimony, sources claim the prison intimidation campaigns intensified dramatically. Federal investigators believe Diddy has been using every available resource: family members, business associates, fellow inmates, and street connections to eliminate Gene Deal before he can testify in the new case. Because Gene's survival literally determines whether Diddy serves 2 decades or spends the rest of his life behind bars. In a dramatic twist that underscores the high stakes of this legal battle, Sean Diddy Combs has recently escalated efforts to secure his release from jail ahead of his sentencing, scheduled for October 3, 2025. Despite being held in the notorious Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn since his September arrest, Diddy's legal team has submitted a staggering bail proposal aimed at convincing the court to let him out.
He was sentenced. They tried to get out on bail. They made an offer. They said, we'd like for him to be released on $1 million bail. The judge shut that down. So now it's like he's playing let's make a deal.
The proposed bail package is nothing short of audacious. A $50 million bond backed by Diddy's Miami mansion, coupled with strict conditions including house arrest and travel restrictions limited to the southern districts of Florida and New York. Along with surrendering his passport and consenting to electronic monitoring, these terms aim to alleviate the court's concerns about flight risk and potential danger. Diddy's attorneys argue that the charges leading to his conviction, primarily under the Mann Act for transporting individuals across state lines for P, are nonviolent offenses. They contend that Diddy has demonstrated compliance with pretrial conditions and that similar defendants are typically released pending sentencing. His legal team has even framed his relationships with Cassie and Jane as part of a consensual swingers lifestyle rather than criminal activity. However, prosecutors remain resolute, with prosecutor Maureen Comey declaring the only things exceptional about this defendant are his wealth, his violence, and his brazenness. Judge Subramanian has previously cited the defense's own admission of DV against Cassie as evidence that Diddy poses an ongoing threat. Sources close to the case reveal that Diddy's desperation extends far beyond the courtroom. Reports have surfaced of him attempting to influence and silence critics, most notably Gene Deal, his former bodyguard turned whistleblower. Federal investigators have documented Diddy using intermediaries and leveraging connections even from jail to pressure Gene into staying silent before the upcoming federal case. Despite threats and intimidation attempts, Gene remains unbowed. His public declarations about fearing for his safety have resonated widely, underscoring the peril insiders face when standing against powerful figures. However, sources close to Gene reveal that his heightened caution isn't primarily about his own safety. It's about protecting his family. Gene has reportedly told confidants that while he ain't scared of no man, his children and grandchildren have become potential targets in Diddy's retaliation campaign. This family vulnerability has made Gene more strategic in his public appearances, while simultaneously making him more determined to see justice served before his loved ones face consequences for his courage. As Gene continues his dangerous mission to expose the truth, Diddy's empire crumbles piece by piece. The federal government is allegedly preparing for round 2. Gene's family remains in jeopardy, and the music industry watches in stunned silence. This battle between power and justice is far from over, and Gene Deal's survival determines everything.